So before I get started, just a very quick personal note. Thank you for picking this up. LondonR is very important to me. I have hired people from LondonR. I have met some of my lifelong friends in LondonR, and I hope to meet my next couple of friends and hires here. Thanks for picking this up. It's kind of awesome. Anyway, that little bit of admin. Data is useless. An abridged review of how data things go. Let's just get started. Clarifying note. I think data is very important. My friends, my family, my employer, everybody that knows me. I preach data. I left my engineering career for data. I love data. Outside of this room, I am the data evangelist. But we are inside this room. And we all know the fancy little funny things that data does, don't we? Let's talk about some of them. This is what I'm going to be talking about in 3 steps. Data is crap, your manager is a dodo, and nobody is stupid. Let's get started with data is crap. Picture of a mountain. Where is this? I do intend for this to be highly interactive, so do yell out. Where is this in the world?
Switzerland.
Switzerland, okay. I'll give you a tip. Is it Japan or Peru? You're wrong, it's Japan. That being said, it could be, right? This could conceivably be either. That being said, if you look at a map, there's some distance apart. You could be pedantic and say you go over the Pacific, ha ha ha. If you were playing GeoGuessr, you would get 0 anyway, so whatever, they're pretty far. My point here is that data will make things look disparate that are in fact quite close together. And the opposite will happen as well. The data will say that things are exactly the same, but because of omitted variables that you're not even measuring, they're going to be completely separate, right? The data will lie to you. That's why data is crap. Why else is data crap? The data is crap because the guy used Excel. And I do apologize for using a gendered term here, but it's definitely the guy that used Excel. Question, what percent of spreadsheets have errors in them? Go ahead.
100. Yeah.
100%?
100.
100%. Come on, be realistic. What percent of?
99.9.
70. Okay, the first realistic estimate. It is actually 90%. Actually, 87%, unless I made a mistake in transcribing that. Right. There's this gentleman called Raymond Pankow that actually conducted research on Excel mistakes, which is just the coolest area of research that I've ever heard of in my life. And he had this to say. Broadly speaking, people make a mistake in simple tasks 0.5% of the time. When they're doing complex tasks, that's 5% of the time. Manual jobs have a mistake 5% of the time. I double that for safety. You can assume that if you're doing something manually, you will make a mistake 10% of the time. Why is this important? It is the use case for automation, right? Because when things go wrong, they're going to go catastrophically wrong, and you have a chance that you're going to catch it, right? You might think, okay, fine. All spreadsheets, 90% of spreadsheets have mistakes. How big a problem can it really be? What if it's just a tiny little thing? Well, JP Morgan lost $6 billion on a tiny little Excel mistake. COVID, you remember that? It was like a bad cold a couple of years ago. You remember how London started having no COVID cases whatsoever? Because some dodo decided to use Excel as part of their ETL pipeline? Austerity, you guys remember that? The spreadsheet that was used to prove the case that austerity would work in this country had an Excel spreadsheet in it. It had an Excel spreadsheet error in it. And it was caught by a first year. Some interesting kind of questions. There's further research also done in Excel that says that 330,000 lives have been lost due to austerity in this country over 5 years. So you tell me if Excel errors are a big deal or not. Why else is data crap? Data is people, right? So we got a topic A and it's going kind of down, and then topic B and it's jumping kind of up. What if I told you that there was a staffing change in the organization that creates this data right here? This is a real case. The data is obviously fabricated, but this is a real case. The reason why there was a spike in topic B, because the person that moved to post had an interest in topic B. They knew how to look for it. They knew how to find it. They had an interest in reporting it, right? You will never find, with this data set, the staffing changes that the organization did, right? And yet, this is why the data is changing. It's because of the person that was there. This is the same thing with stop and search. in the policy of the police in the United States. The more you look for crime, the more you find crime, right? But you're never going to find this metadata associated with the information. I can take this one further. Do you guys remember during COVID, the bad cold a couple of years ago, how some things ended up dropping down to 0? Well, the reason why they dropped down to 0 is because the people that were there to provide those services were also on, what do they call it when they send you away on layover? You know what I mean? That one, they have furloughed, yeah. So it's kind of like one of those things. If you want to eliminate bugs in your software, just fire everybody that works with bugs. This is real, too. This is real. This is happening. Anyway, why else is data crap? Data's crap because you're biased. I'm not talking about selection bias and survivability bias. I'm talking about unconscious bias, right? In preparing this presentation, I looked for icons on strong. Look at that. See anything in common? Where's the strength of a mother? Where's the strength in standing up for what is right? You can only be strong if you have a bicep. See what I'm talking about? This is the stuff that gets under your skin. You don't even realize that this is happening. And we are the ones that are creating the data sets that people are using. Right? Unconscious bias. Really, really big deal. Your data is crap because the world is nonlinear and the only normally distributed thing is a stat professor's examples, which is, by the way, I think the best title that I've ever in any of these slides. But we all took stats. Show of hands, who took stats? Yeah, right? And what do they show you? They show you a data set like this, right? Oh yeah, wonderful. And then you do a nice little model. Ooh, look at that residual, yes. And then what does every data set that you've ever worked with look like? Right? And you put this in a linear model, and what do your residuals look like? It's not supposed to look like a trumpet. The only reason why it does this is so that you learn that heteros word that you impress people with, right? So what do? You cut off the outliers, right? And then you have a nice little data set in the middle, and that's normally distributed, right? Cheater. Right. What else do? You use the B, C, and P method. Box, Cox, and Parade. Because box, Cox is a normalizing transformation, so my residuals must be normally distributed after that, right? And they probably are. That's cheating. That's why non-parametric methods are better, which is why it's always correct to use random forest. Hashtag just saying. Not all samples from the population are the same. This is a really interesting one that recently I became aware of. So you have a bunch of customers, right? And you're learning things from them, and you want to know what is the average age, what is the sex makeup, where are your customers, all of these kinds of things. And then all of a sudden you gain a new customer that's much larger, and everybody's very happy because now you're going to be getting a whole bunch of data. But anybody that knows anything about Bayes will know, as soon as you have that one big client, what's going to happen to your conclusions? Right? So when you're modeling, we call this problem mixed, what do they call it? When you have one sample that's bigger and one that's smaller, and you solve it with oversampling and undersampling. But whoever does oversampling and undersampling when they're doing dashboards in Tableau or anything like that, does anyone ever do that? So how do you solve this problem, actually?
Random effects.
Random effects? Okay, can you talk to you later? Right, let's talk about data green. Once upon a time, you had a SQL table. It was a simple SQL table, and it did its job very well, right? And a customer was a customer, and money was money, and success was going up, right? And then big data came around, right? Wait, so I can figure out when I serve an ad to someone, and I can know if they were in a tube, and then they were at work, and then I can also know what the weather was at the time that they saw the ad that they served before I showed them the thing? Yes, I want all of it, yes. Store it all. Wait, but where am I going to put it? Just store it later. Oh, let's invent a thing called NoSQL. Yeah, but just store everything. I want all the data, said everybody, right? Give me all the data. And then what happened? Who's been here? There's somebody in this room that's been here. No one's been here? Oh, I need more cloud friends. This is the thing that happened, right? Everybody's bills blew up, right? And everybody came back to this and they said, okay, we had a little moment there, we realized that a lot of the data that we gathered, we were using it, let's do the right thing, sector. And then these guys came through. And they invented a database in which you pay separately for storage and analysis. Now you can store whatever you want. And the sector went absolutely crazy, and we started putting things in data lakes, and we started putting things in structured database, and we invented neo-database styles, and eventually we had so much stuff in there that we created data swamps. And now to manage the data swamps, we need more software, because now also, by the way, we don't know what a customer is anymore, because a customer is 3 different things depending on who you're talking to. And money, wait, are we talking about present value money? Are we talking about 1999 money? What money are we talking about? What are the exchange rates for the money that we're doing? And we invented all of these tools to help us understand what the crap is going on with our businesses. By the way, none of this is free, nor are the highly paid experts that work in the modern data stack. The modern data stack, right? That's what we love to say. And in the end, nobody understands anything about this, and we wish that we could go back to a simple case where a customer was a customer and we knew what way was up, right? How do we put the genie back inside the lamp, right? How do we return to simplicity? Well, we have new things in the modern data stack. We have new tools for explainability and data discoverability and orchestration and all these kinds of things. And people get very excited about talking about their modern data stack. Modern data stack people here? Anybody? Yeah? There's literally like just a couple people. You're embarrassed to put your hands up. That's okay. You know that talking about the modern data stack is a little bit like explaining to a customer how you have a new machine that cuts onions really well. And they're in your restaurant to eat. What do they care how you cut your onions? It's your damn problem how you cut your own onions. What recipe can you serve me, right? And this is the problem, I think, with where we are right now as a sector, is that everybody's talking about the modern data stack. Nobody's talking about the modern data experience. What can people expect of us as data practitioners? When you talk to a CEO and you say invest in data, what are we promising them? What can we offer different than we did in 1980, right? I highly recommend you read this gentleman. His name is Ben Stansfield. He's the co-founder of Mode. And his blog is ben.substack.com, and he wrote this article, The Modern Data Experience. Highly recommend everybody read that, but read everything that he's written. This guy's a genius. I think the problem comes down to this. This is what my own opinion is. Battle of Hastings, 1066. A very interesting thing happened at that moment. There was a division in language, Anglo-Saxon and French. The aristocrats, what language do they speak? French. So they are the ones that are eating the food. So the words for the thing that you eat are derived from French, like bœuf, porc, mouton, right? But the thing that you use to make that food is the Anglo-Saxon, cow, pig, and sheep. And I think the problem is that data is still on the ingredient side of things, right? We don't know what the food version of data is. And if you say insights or knowledge or wisdom or something like that, I'm going to throw this microphone at your head. Because you know what I'm talking about, right? You know what I'm talking about. How do we provide data in a way that is on a menu for people, right? And there are some tools in the modern data stack. We are getting there, but I think that's where the frustration is, I think, with a lot of people, especially with the amount of money that they're spending for what they're extracting from it. Keeping it moving. Your data is crap because people lie. You remember this? 15% chance to win?
Yeah.
Why was it 15% chance to win? The models had a very probable outcome, right? But when you talk about certainty within a realm where what you are measuring is uncertain, it's a little bit like this, right? Talking about sig figs in a situation that makes no sense whatsoever. Because the uncertainty in the system itself is too great, and the way that you are sampling from the system is wrong. It's just simply wrong. You will never get certainty. Another example, why data is crap. You have a business, it depends on another business. Business A feeds information to business B. For example, my sales were 100,000, but the company receives, it was 130,000. If you know where I'm going, don't yell it out. You're an analyst at this big company. What do? There's 30,000 missing. The system is right. The 30,000 must have been embezzled, right? Remember this?
Yeah.
Do you remember this? And do you remember that? miscarriage of judgment, or the miscarriage of justice, biggest miscarriage of justice in history, whatever. This is what I know. Over 700 people affected, over 700 families affected. Suicides, arrests, divorces, shame, abandonment, and years of being a black sheep that stole from the system, right? Why? Because systems lie. Systems lie. We design systems, and systems lie, sometimes unconsciously, sometimes by malice. But the point that I want you to remember about this is, do you guys remember this experiment, the Milgram experiment? Some people say it's been disproven. I think it's been replicated adequately. But the point of this experiment was that when you have somebody in a position of authority, they are typically believed, okay? And I think that is true also with the systems that we build. So I think us, as the people that work with data, we have to be very, very, very responsible. We have an ethical responsibility to do the right thing, right? Whatever that might be. The system kicks back. This is one of my favorite concepts. This is one of my favorite reasons why the data is wrong. You do an analysis and you do your homework and you do it right and you do it correct and you pick things, but you fail to recognize that the time frame that you were operating in is a fraction of the system. And I'm not talking about, oh, you didn't do a time series long enough. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about systems thinking, inflection points, long-term, short-term interactions, right? When you think in systems, you'll see that the things that happen now that look inexplicable perhaps have a systemic reason to come through. When you push the system in one direction, the system will kick back. That's a concept that I stole from a book that I'm going to talk about later. The last reason why your data is definitely crap. R for life, R for life, y'all. R for life, R for life, y'all. Anyway, moving right along. Your manager is a dodo. I'm a manager, by the way. So I'm a dodo, right? What are the things that managers do? Managers use intuition, right? So this is Dara O'Brien. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but he's a very funny guy. And he had a skit in which he says, terrorism is at an all-time low, but fear of terrorism is at an all-time high. Therefore, we should action terrorism. Have you seen this kind of a thing in your business where the data is not saying that something is happening, it's not important, and then everyone's like, oh yeah, because the customer's worried about this, so we're going to go ahead and do this? Do you guys see this? Couple of hands. Couple of hands. Why else? Managers use budgets, not data, right? So let's say you're an analyst and you're set to analyze these things and you see that product C is going down, so you say, let's stop product C. And the response that your manager is going to give you is, actually at this moment, sit tap and assess. If you don't recognize that image, it's from the movie, Don't Look Up, which is about why data is useless in general. But something like this might be a little bit vexing. Has anyone ever done that? You present your findings to the manager and they say, that's very good. We'll sit tight and assess. Has that happened to anyone here? No? Yeah, more hands than not. Okay. And the reason why that might happen is for several reasons. But one that I'm going to talk about here is you might be between fiscal years, in which case the budget is already allocated. I can't stop product C because I already entered agreements to purchase the raw materials, and those are on 2-year things, so there's no way that I can escape product C. The best that I can escape is in maybe 2025, 26, right? So it's not that your manager is a dodo, it's that the money was allocated. To which your reaction might be, then why did you have me do the analysis now? Why didn't you have me do the analysis before you entered these agreements? And if I tell you the reasons why managers have given me about timing, tell me later, especially if there's a beer in my hand. It is absolutely incredible. Sometimes they cannot be avoided. But the point here is that if it ain't in the budget, it's not happening. And this is not that your manager is a dodo, but they are operating within a framework of running an organization, which may or may not have anything to do with your data. So it's not your manager that's a dodo, it's you that's a dodo for not understanding the framework of the manager. It's a marathon, not a race. I mean, people think this, right? We're data pirates, we're data ninjas, we're You're data superstars. We're going to come in, do some data science, and the problem is solved. Yeah? How many people have hired a contractor to come in and solve a complicated problem and then they disappear? Well, how does that go? Good? Not so good? Of course not. It's a company, right? You change, you solve the problem. That doesn't push anything forward. Where's the training? Where's the governance changes? Where's speaking to people to understand the underlying system that caused the problem in the first place? Tech is easy, man. Humans are hard, right? This is evidenced by Sean at Data Orchard. She does this data maturity assessment, and she does these state of the sector assessments. And I think this is really quite interesting. What she found is that as businesses progress from emerging, which is not using data very much, to learning, eventually developing, and eventually mastering, the percent of time staff spend on data actually goes up. So the attitude that I'm just going to solve this one data problem, and then we can spend our time and resources somewhere else, well, the data doesn't back that up. What the data shows is that the more you invest in data, the more value you extract in it. So it does make sense to continue investing in data, right? But this whole thing of hiring somebody to come in and do something fancy and leave, that's not the way it works, man. If you want to hire contractors, do so long-term commitment kind of thing. We will develop the perfect system. This time we will develop the absolute perfect system. We're going to listen to all the stakeholders. There's going to be no feature creep. Nothing's going to happen, and it's going to be perfect for everybody, right? Here I present my favorite book. If there's one thing that you remember from me, it's about this book, the Systems Bible. It says everything that I'm saying much better. And the Systems Bible has this to say about complex systems. A complex system that works is invariably found to have evolved from a simple system that worked. Said another way, a complex system designed from scratch never works and cannot be made to work. You have to start over beginning with a working, simple system. Stop trying to get it perfect, fail fast, find your MVP, move on. The one exception to this is make sure you take good account of diversity. Make sure that all your stakeholders are brought with the system. That's the only thing. Other than that, fail fast. Keep it moving. KPIs. Yeah? Do we love them? Do we hate them? Yeah. Do we love them? Yeah. Do we hate them? God damn, well, all right. That's a robust yes. Why do we have KPIs? Well, you gotta have KPIs in case you don't recognize the icon thingy there. That's from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. You've got to have bypasses. You have to have KPIs. You have to measure where you're going, right? The issue is that people don't understand what KPIs are or how to use them, right? And I found when this graphic was presented to me by my finance person, I absolutely love this. The difference between a KPI and an OKR, the KPI is the speedometer that you are looking at. It is a number. It is not opinionated, right? It's not going to tell you if you're doing good or bad. The OKR is the one that's telling you if you are getting to a path. It is also not going to tell you if you're doing good or bad. It's only when you have a good goal, you can set OKRs that are valuable, and then you select the KPIs that mean something. If you just have a KPI, it's like saying our company strives to drive at 60 miles per hour. In the wrong direction? Right? What does this KPI tell you? And very importantly, why? Why are you gathering this information? Why are we setting up this huge system? You build this ETL pipelines with SQL, and then we have dbt to store the SQL, to have discoverability and all this stuff. Why? Where are we going? What are we doing with this? And more importantly is what is going to happen if the speed drops to 20? What's going to happen if the speed goes to 100? My new attitude as the head of data is I think about these scenarios before I write the KPI and before I write the OKR. I have a discussion with my exec to make sure that we know what's going to happen when these numbers hit those values that we think they might hit. So that when they do hit those numbers, we don't have to sit around saying, well, now what? We know exactly what to do because we've thought about it in the past. And if I don't know what I would change when that value hits when that KPI hits that value, guess what? You don't gather it. It's not key, right? This is such a difficult concept for people to understand. I'm not sure why. Anyway, moving right along. We should do AI. Yeah? The people in this position, are they being pushed towards AI? Because AI is sexy, AI solves all the problems, right? Well, in my experience, you have very good data science projects on data governance, on automation, just like Jeremy was talking about. There's very simple things that you can do to provide incredible value to companies. Sometimes AI is a hindrance. I love how, by the way, this is an AI-generated image. And see how it's binding up the wheels so that things that the car doesn't even go now? Isn't that kind of awesome, the way that it just kind of worked out that way? So the reason, but here's again, right? So you can say, oh yes, managers are dodos for asking for AI that isn't necessarily useful. To prove why the managers are not dodos, I need some volunteers. I need 3 volunteers in a row. Can I have you 3? Volunteer, you 3? So let's say that we have a wonderful company that is using AI. You're going to be person number 1, you're going to be person number 2, and you're going to be person number 3, okay? Your cues are going to be right here. So there's a wonderful company doing great stuff, right?
Should I read?
You can read it.
Yeah, big data is amazing. Genesis, how many AI projects do we have?
None. That's not what we do.
Get me big data projects now.
Okay.
Hello, can I please have some money?
We only fund big data projects. Now, does your project use AI big data?
Yes.
Does this sound familiar to anyone? Okay. And here I'm talking about donors. You can replace that donors for the market. You can replace this for clients, customers, the perception of your company. You have all these people that want to do AI because the mechanism for AI is now, there is budget being created. Remember I talked to you, if it's not in the budget, it's not going to happen? AI is in the budget right now, so we're going to put AI into things. What is the result of this? 85% of big data projects fail. I'm conflating big data with AI, that's not correct. Close enough though, right? Close enough for horseshoes and grenades. The reason why these projects are failing is because AI had no purpose in those projects. You are effectively building a car to put the engine on top of to deliver the AI. Even worse, we're starting to give AI a bad name, and C-suite people are starting to say AI is not living up to its standard. AI is awesome. AI is absolutely incredible. It is the biggest discovery of our age, I think, right? But you got to use it correctly. Otherwise, you're going to be one of these statistics. Anyway, enough about managers. Last section, nobody is stupid. Show of hands. Don't be jerks. Although that is very interesting, if you're being humble, that's correct. The point is, we don't hold values in our head that we know are to be incorrect, right? Climate change, who believes that we are changing the environment, humans are changing the environment, and that it will have repercussions in our lifetime? Okay, keep your hands up, keep your hands up. Who has made a tangible and deep change in their lifestyle in order to avoid that future from happening? That's actually more hands than I expected. Very good, very good. Proud of you, thank you. The world thanks you. The point is, not everybody will do that, right? Because our convictions die hard, right? Now, I'm going to do another little example. Jeremy. Oh, God, no. I believe the earth is flat. Convince me otherwise.
Why have you picked on me to do this?
Because you're the guy, man. You're the manager.
No.
That's a good compliment.
That's a compliment.
If the earth is so flat, well, what countries have you been to that are far away from the country we're in now?
Just keep talking at me.
Yes, very good.
I know. The more people try to talk to me,
What's your favourite country that you've been to that's far away from where we are now? How long did it take you to get there? How did you get there?
see what's happening?
Yeah.
I'm shutting down. I don't like to be told that I'm stupid. I did my research. Who are you? Are you an expert on roundness?
Of course.
Trust, right? Trust. This is an incredible book. I'm right and you're an idiot, which is, by the way, also an excellent title for a book. But in this book, they see something that is absolutely profound. It's changed the way that I see, the way that I communicate. Scientists use data. Politician talks about convictions. Public talks about trust. This is how decisions are made. Why do scientists speak about data? Because there is trust already. We have metrics that measure our trust, our ability to trust people. Not that it's perfect. For example, there's this paper that is talking about how the sugar industry caused us to think that fat and cholesterol are the biggest healthcare problems and not sugar. It was an open lobby, right? So even in our community, our perfect community where you can trust data, there are other powers at play, right? And now let's step outside of the data. You don't have the ability to measure validity of data. Who do you believe? You guys remember this? 350? What about this guy? Do you remember this?
Yeah, sure.
We have certainty that weapons of mass destruction exist, right? Nobody is stupid. People believe. Why? Because they believe what politicians are talking about. They're connecting on convictions. People are connecting on trust. And we're sitting here saying, oh, look, the data is saying this and this and that. Who's ever going to listen to us, man? That's not the language that people talk about. One last example. Do you know who this man is? Nayib Bukele? El Salvador. That's right. Keep your eye on this man. This man is combining data-backed decision-making, knowledge of social media, with all the old tools of how to control a country. And this is creating a very interesting recipe for the new politicians. Keep your eye on this man. The point of this section, I think, is gradient descent. Does everyone understand what gradient descent is? More or less? So as many hands ago. Gradient descent is something that you use in machine learning to iteratively reach the most stable point in the system. And when you find your global minima, the most stable state, that is when you have the best answer, more or less, right? The problem is there are several minimas in any system, most of which are local minimas. There will only be one global minimum. Statistically, you as a human being have convictions that are falling closer to a local minima than a global minimum. What does this mean tangibly? If you haven't changed your mind lately, you are probably wrong. I'm not saying about every issue, but I'm saying, how often do you change your mind? And if this comment, you meet with some opposition, I'm going to change one word that's going to convince you that I'm right. What about this? Yeah? Now it makes sense? The base people are saying, oh, yeah. You have to update your priors. If you don't update your priors, you're not going to iterate towards the most stable solution, and your model of the world, your viewpoint, is going to be incorrect. Right? You have to change your mind. If you think that this stuff is fine because we have systems of democracy that control everything, I would bring to your attention that the world is changing faster than I think the systems that we have to control it are changing. And we're getting to an interesting place in the world. Anyway, summary. Let's talk about wrapping these things up. I talked about how data is wrong. I talked about how it wouldn't matter that your data is wrong because your questions are already biased. Anyway, if your questions are not biased, you're not going to transmit your knowledge. I didn't talk about that. But if you do transmit your knowledge, your boss has other plans. If your boss even doesn't have other plans, then probably your donors or the markets, they want something fancy. They don't care about what you have to say with data. And if all of that even works, opponents have hard power. That's also something that I didn't present about. The point to that one is that data can be power. But you know what's always power? Power. Let's talk about the positive thing, right? I do believe that there are solutions to these problems. Your data is wrong. Study your context carefully, right? Learn systems thinking, learn game theory, look for inflection points in the data, right? Your data will try to lie to you. Don't let it. Questions are biased. Diversity. That's how you cure that one. Make sure that you have a diverse team. It's not something in your HR's manual. Bring people that disagree with it, that tell you you don't know what you're talking about. your team will be better for it. I'm not going to talk about that one. I didn't talk about won't transmit knowledge. For your boss has other plans. If you are a data scientist and your management does not understand, try to be gentle with them. They don't know the things that you know. Try to bring them along. If your management doesn't get it, quit. If you are management and your board and your execs don't get it, quit. If you are an exec and your board doesn't get it, talk to me afterwards. Respond to market donors, but stay in infinite game mode. That means do what you do. Yes, you have to play ball. Yes, we have to take advantage of the money that's available now. But don't let that shape what you know to be the case, right? Keep it basic, keep it simple, iterate quickly, fail fast, all that stuff, right? Don't play the game too much. And yeah, for the last one about power is power, when an immovable object meets unstoppable force, get out of the way. That's all I had to say. This is my LinkedIn. I very much want to hear what I was right about, what I was wrong about, what I left out. Thank you very much.